This is going to be a rant about an article I'm posting. Have you ever been on the receiving end of the kind of verbal abuse that takes the form of somebody talking over you while they berate you and ask you accusing questions? I have a method that works every time, and I want to share it with my friends. I might as well share it with my network, my clients, and I hope it's useful for you if you're unfortunate enough to get into a situation where you have to use it. I'm talking about a time when someone is accusing you and asking you questions and blurting out things that they're angry at you about, and they won't let you speak. They won't let you address the questions they're asking. This is what it is when someone is berating a person. That's what the word berate is for, I think, because a lot of times you might just say someone is accusing a person or interrogating, or you might say they're excoriating a person. There's just something about the word berate that implies a kind of abusiveness. And what I'm talking about here is a verbal self-defense technique that we can use against someone who would try to dominate us this way with dominance interruption. Dominance interruption. People might think about it in different ways. In a simple way, we can think about dominance interruption as someone who is accusing you and complaining to you about yourself and then not giving you an opportunity to speak on your own behalf. And when you do start to speak, they feel perfectly entitled to interrupt you whenever they want, a lot of times in ways that interrupt you halfway through a sentence so that the end of your sentence is part of the meaning, is important for the meaning, and it ends up causing you to be misconstrued because of the way they interrupt you. It's not fair. It's not fair, and it's not cool. And a few times, only 3 times that I can clearly remember, I've actually run into this type of verbal abuse in such a way that the person was clearly using careful timing, so that what they would do is ask a question. What did I write in the article that I'm looking at now? It's like, what they'll say, what, did you fail again to document appropriately? And then you say, wait, what are you even talking? And they say, before you can finish, they say, why did I not receive your report until just now? And then you're still trying to figure out what they're upset about because you know you did everything correctly. And you say, well, I don't think, but then you get interrupted again and they say, I almost don't even want to hear your excuses. And they continue, and it's like, it's as though they're watching and they wait, and as soon as you take a breath and you're about to say something, they will say something else to you. This is in its most extreme form, this is a kind of verbal abuse that involves a kind of rather sophisticated technique that is premeditated. It's very deliberate. It's not always deliberate, usually not. But like I said, just 3 times that I can remember, I've been involved with this. 2 times that I was on the receiving end, and then 1 time I witnessed it happening to another person. There are some people out there who actually, it seems that they make a conscious decision to use as a technique for dominating other people, maybe because they learned it from their father or something. But sorry, I don't like the way that men are being demonized these days. But it's usually a dude that does things like this. It's usually a guy. It's someone who would deliberately ask accusing questions, accuse you of things, interrogate you, and then pause as if they're gonna let you reply, and then those bastards interrupt as soon as you start to talk, as if to say to you, I don't give a damn what you're gonna say in your own defense. I don't give a damn what your answer is. That's what it's like. It's like they're asking you questions like, what is even really going on here? They're confronting you about something that they're upset about, which they might be entirely wrong about, and then if they don't care to hear your response, then that implies something in a very strong way, And so what I'm thinking of is someone who obviously is deliberately pausing to give you a chance to start to respond, and then they interrupt you right away when you start to speak. When that happened to me, I recognized right away that they were doing it on purpose. It only took 2 times before I realized this dude is waiting for me to reply. He's waiting for me to start to answer, and then he is saying the next thing he wants to say. Like, wow, like maybe that's a habit that, like I said, maybe he learned it from his dad or something. Like, they'll get in your face, they'll ask you accusing questions, and then they'll act like they're gonna let you reply, and then you try to start to say something, and then they disrespect you so bad by interrupting as soon as you start to speak. Like, clearly sending the message that they don't care what you're about to say. So, all right, that is the quintessential kind of example of a situation where you might use this technique. But really, this technique is for any type of situation where someone is berating you and verbally assaulting you. And I don't like to say verbally assaulting. Actually, I don't want to say that. If someone is interrogating you and then they won't let you get a word in, that's not cool. If you accuse someone of something, and especially if you ask them to explain themselves about a particular, or if you ask them to answer, if you ask a specific question and then you just go on because you don't care to hear the answer, yeah, no, that's that's not okay. But we have to make sure we make a careful distinction, though, between what we're talking about here and a situation where someone just has a bad habit of interrupting. That is not what I'm talking about. A lot of very good people have a bad habit of interrupting, and that's not what this is about. This also is not about any kind of situation where one of your friends or your loved ones is just so upset that they go on and on. It's not about that. You can recognize very clearly when it's a situation where someone is trying to dominate the hell out of you, rhetorically, verbally, talking over you, and it's not because they're upset, it's because they're a prick. And that is what this is for. So, having said that, here it is. Right? We'll go back to that example, that situation. You're at work. Somebody says, "What, did you fail again to document appropriately?" And you say, "Wait, what are you saying?" And they say, "No, and why did I not receive your report until just now?" And you say, "Well, I don't think that you," and they interrupt again and they say, "I don't even want to hear your excuses because," and then right then, now you look them dead in the eye and you have no expression on your face, nothing hostile, and nothing that would indicate weakness, no expression at all. And you say, "Stop talking." But you don't say it that way. You say it like a jab. If you're a boxer, boxing in the boxing ring, you say, "Stop talking." And then you continue right away. So it's like this. "Stop talking. If you're referring to the incident from yesterday, everything was documented and I stayed late entering it into the system." Now, that's it. And when you say it that way, when you say "stop talking" clearly and you look them right in the eye, it makes them stop talking. And the reason why is it pertains to something from hypnosis that is called, it pertains to rapid induction hypnosis, and it also pertains to something called pacing and leading, and it pertains also to something called building rapport. I'm talking specifically about Ericksonian hypnosis, and it's going to be beyond the scope of this particular rant for me to explain how it's related to those things. You can Google around about it if you're curious. The thing that you need to know if you want to try this out next time someone excoriates you in a way where they're accusing you and asking questions and trying to make you look stupid because you don't reply, because they don't let you reply, because they interrupt you whenever you reply, trying to dominate and assert themselves as the more powerful person, you can turn it around and reverse it on them like this. You look them in the eye and you have no expression on your face and you say, "Stop talking." And then you say what you want to say, but you have to keep it quick. You can't go on and on. You only get to spend maybe 8 or 9 seconds. That's it. You say, "Stop talking," and then you say something that you can say in just 8 or 9 seconds. And when you do, they will stop talking, they'll hear you, and then they will have to deal with what you said. They'll have to settle the hell down. This is the verbal equivalent of slapping someone in the face who's having a freak out. But still, maybe I shouldn't use that particular example because, like I said before, this is not something to use against one of your loved ones who is just so upset that they go on and on. This is only something to use to put a bully in their place. And maybe the reason it works so well is because they get stunned when their mind tries to make sense of being told to stop talking. This is the connection to what I said is rapid induction hypnosis. Suddenly they have a whole lot to think about. When you tell them stop talking, it's like, why did you say that? Usually people can't say stop talking. There are very few circumstances under which it's okay for you to tell someone to stop talking. Maybe if it's like you got your kid in church or something, I don't know. How many situations could you think of where it's okay to tell someone to stop talking? So this person who is coming at you already trying to convict you of being guilty of something, they hear you say stop talking and it gets their attention because it seems like you're guilty of something more now. Because usually if someone says stop talking to someone else, that means you're guilty of something because you're out of line if you tell someone to stop talking. But in this particular situation, when someone is trying to verbally dominate you by interrupting you and not letting you get a word in while they accuse you of things, in this particular situation, when you say stop talking, what happens is as follows. It's like this. First, they say to themselves, oh, they just committed an infraction. People aren't allowed to tell other people to stop talking. How dare you? But then they think, oh, I get it. It's because I keep interrupting every time they try to talk and I'm accusing them of shit. They're just trying to get a word in. And they decode it in their minds. And they say, oh, I see. Stop talking means stop interrupting. And they understand that because they're getting called out on their own bullshit, right? But it takes them 8 or 9 seconds to figure that out. And during those 8 or 9 seconds, you can say what you want to say, and any onlookers will see that you're the one in control of the situation because you stunned them into silence when they clearly were not letting you speak. They were trying not to let you speak. So when you say stop talking, it creates a situation where they have to go through this mental process of thinking they might be able to jump on an opportunity to convict you of yet another thing they want to accuse you of, because the instinct is to, or the first response anybody's mind has to the words stop talking is to think like, how dare they say that? No one has the right to tell another person stop talking. This might be my opportunity to prove whatever it is I'm accusing them of. Or something like that. That's what goes through their mind. And then they have to realize, oh, wait a minute. Actually, it's different at this moment because I was just interrupting them repeatedly. If I'm repeatedly interrupting them, then they actually it's actually kind of okay for them to tell me, stop talking. It's like in the heat of the moment, you get some leniency in your word choice. And so it could just be inadvertent that you choose to say, stop talking, when what you really mean is stop interrupting. Any reasonable person could infer that what you mean is stop interrupting. If someone keeps interrupting over and over and you say stop talking, then of course that's what you mean. But the beauty of this terrible, vicious technique is that you can say to them, stop talking, and then you become the one who is psychologically dominating them. Because you stun them with this situation that makes them have to think really hard for, like I said, like pretty much exactly 8 or 9 seconds. No more, no less. To figure out what's going on. It's like, they just told me to stop talking? And then they're like, oh yeah, because I was interrupting. But there's also something more that you can add, and I went back and forth about whether or not to even include this. But as a freelancer, a virtual assistant, ready to help you achieve your goals, so please hire me. I'm committed to the success of my clients. So if you have an argument with someone, all things being equal, I want you to win. And So you can add this third part. If you want to be particularly vicious, and only if it's someone who's actually a bully that needs to be put in their place, not if it's someone who loves you and is just upset, okay? So it happens like this. You have a 1, 2, 3 rhythm, and you don't just use stop talking to get a chance to say something, but instead you turn it around on them completely, and you add this one more thing. 1, 2, 3. You look them in the eye, and you say, stop talking. If you're referring to the incident from yesterday, everything was documented and I stayed late to enter it into the system. Thank you, now you can speak. And that's the difference. That's what you add at the end. This is so ruthless, but I'm telling you, because if you're seeing this, you're someone in my network, or you're my client or friend, so I want you to have this at your disposal if you want to use it. At the end of what you say, you say, thank you, now you can speak. Or you can enunciate. You could say, thank you, now you can speak. I punched the desk right now. All right, thank you, now you can speak. Now, why is this exquisitely ruthless? It's because you've stunned them by saying stop talking, making them think for a moment that they've got another thing to find you guilty of, because you just said stop talking, and it's like, wait, how dare anyone say stop talking? And by the time they figure out that it's because they were trying to verbally dominate you, that you actually have plenty of justification for saying stop talking as a way of saying stop interrupting and let me explain myself. Then you say something that they have to deal with. You give them information. You say, if you're referring to the incident from yesterday, everything was documented and I stayed late entering it into the system. You gave them this information, and then you closed it off by saying, thank you, now you can speak. And that part, it just knocks them down. When you give them permission to speak, what is the last thing in the world they want to do? Speak. So now they have to shut up. Now they have to be entirely silent, but they won't. That's not what they'll do. They will speak, because they have some stuff they were just about to say. They were just getting ready to interrupt you again. But the problem for them is you just give them permission to speak. And so, like, what are they going to do? Like, if you tell them stop talking and they do, because they did, when you say stop talking, it stops them in their tracks. It interrupts their train of thought with whatever they're berating you about. It stops them and confuses them for a moment because of for the reasons that I explained. And so if you say stop talking, and then you say your own thing, and you keep it quick, one quick sentence, and then you say to them, thank you, now you can speak. This Swiss cheeses their brain in a way that is just it's like almost too effective to use in good conscience. It's almost unethical because of how vicious this is. You tell them to stop talking and they do, because they get stunned by that, because you don't usually hear that. And they do, because they stop talking because they want to think of how they want to respond to being told to stop talking. And then by the time they figure it out, you're thanking them and giving them permission to speak. And so they start to speak, but they are very likely to stutter, because when they start to speak, they're thinking about the fact that they just stopped speaking when you told them to, and then they spoke again when you told them to. And this is something that their mind will recoil from if they're the sort of person who was just trying to dominate you, or if other people are present, then, they're trying to embarrass you. And so if they're trying to be the person that is dominant, and then they get told to stop talking and they do, and then they get given permission to speak again and they do, this changes their world up in just a second. It changes up their world. So you have that 1, 2, 3 rhythm. A powerful way to say anything is in sets of 3. And so the 1, 2, 3 rhythm is stop talking, and then you answer the charge. You answer the questions. You say whatever you want to say, and then you say, okay, now you can speak. Exasperated because of the way that they were trying to just childishly talk over you. Now, so a few more considerations. We said you're expressionless, right? That means that when you look them in the eye and say stop talking, and then you say what you have to say, you do it in a way that is very confusing to them and stuns them. Part of the beauty of this is that it won't work if you glare at them in a hostile way. You really have to be someone who's peaceful in your heart in order to use this technique effectively, because what's confusing to them is being told, stop talking, by someone who has no expression on their face, no expression of malice or frustration or aggression, none of that. Because if you did that, if you looked hostile and you said, stop talking, that wouldn't be confusing. And if you're not confusing, this technique doesn't work. So you have to be confusing. You can't smile, because if you smile, obviously you're hostile, because this is not a smiling type of situation. And you can't use a hostile expression, because then it wouldn't be confusing at all for you to say stop talking. And they would talk right over you. They would win. You have to be expressionless. And when you do, and you say stop talking, and then you quickly say your piece, and then you give them permission again, now you can speak. That's what is effective. Next, you have an option to say, don't do that, instead of saying stop talking. If you're not comfortable with saying stop talking, you can say don't do that, and it will probably be effective in the same way. Because when you say don't do that, it makes them have to search their own mind for what you're referring to. Like, what are they saying I'm doing? And they know what they're doing. They're interrupting you and berating you, and they're trying to indulge in experiencing themselves as dominant, at your expense, and maybe even embarrassing you in front of other people. And all this stuff goes through their mind, and it gives you the 8 or 9 seconds you need. So if you don't like the idea to say stop talking, you can instead say don't do that. But I encourage you to use stop talking, because it's quicker and it packs a harder punch. I already told you about the connection to hypnosis. If you're curious, you can search to find out about building rapport, R-A-P-P-O-R-T, and pacing and leading. And when you do, don't let it trip you up, because this is related, but it's not any kind of direct application of those things. Those are just relevant things you might want to learn about. And finally, I want to say, this technique does not work if you avoid eye contact. You can't say stop talking if you're not looking at the person's eyes. It doesn't work. Part of the connection to hypnosis is that you overwhelm their senses. You intrigue them with something, then they have something they have to figure out, and all of it is diminished. It's cripplingly diminished if you're not looking at their eyes. So that's very important. That's why I said look them dead in the eye and say stop talking, and then quickly go into saying whatever is your response, and then say thank you, now you can talk. Like you're chastising them like a child for not having basic social skill, right? So it's very important to look at their eyes, and that's why I said you look them dead in the eye. But that's not exactly what I meant. And so if you like this technique and you want to be perfect about it, then you can do the following. Instead of looking into their eyes or looking into one of their eyes, you're always looking in one of a person's eyes or the other or both. Right? It's not just some vague thing. You can look into someone's eyes, or you can look into the right eye or the left eye. But if you want to be perfect about using this technique, with 1, 2, 3, stop talking, say what you want to say, okay, now you can talk. You do it like that. If you want to use this technique perfectly, then develop the habit of resting your attention between the other person's eyes. For reasons that we'll get into in another post, it's a good habit if you're always looking into someone's left eye. But in a hostile situation, allow your attention to rest on the point between their eyes. This is another thing that is just worth its own rant. I'll do another rant about it, and I'll link you to it below. But for now, you just need to know that in a hostile situation, settle your attention on that point between the person's eyes, and you have a big advantage over them. They feel like something's going on that they don't understand when you let your attention rest on the point between their eyes. Now that's enough of this for now. The quick recap about it is you don't use this on someone who just innocently has a habit of interrupting, and you don't use it on someone who's just upset and they're going on and on. You be patient. But when someone is trying to bully or embarrass or dominate you, then you can use it in full effect by having that 1, 2, 3 rhythm. They interrupt you, and when they have made it clear that they're deliberately talking over you and choosing not to let you speak, you can say, stop talking. And it only works if you're looking at their eyes. The space between their eyes is better. You're looking toward their eyes, and you say, stop talking. And then you immediately continue and say what you're going to say. Say your response to whatever it is. You say what you want to say. And when you do, you don't wait for them to stop talking either. You say stop talking, and then you talk over them. You talk over them talking over you. And when you do, they will shut up. And then while they shut up, you are saying what you want to say, and then you tell them, and you can even gesture with your hand. You can say, okay, now you can speak. Right? First, stop talking, and then, okay, now you can speak. And when you do, they will be being obedient to you.